He could command the entire world with a single chord, becoming the reluctant voice of a generation that had finally found someone to scream for them. But while millions were screaming his lyrics back at him, Kurt Cobain was fighting a war inside his own mind, a war he didn't think he could win. He had the fame, the family, and the legacy, yet he felt like an intruder in his own life. Why did the man who changed everything feel like he had nothing left to give? Today, we're going beyond the flannel shirts and the distorted guitars to explore the heartbreaking silence behind the loudest voice in rock. Kurt's war didn't start on a stage in Seattle. It started with a broken heart in a small town called Aberdeen. When his parents divorced, his world shattered. He went from being a happy, artistic child to a boy who felt like extra baggage being tossed between relatives. His feeling of being unwanted became the core of his identity. He channeled that pain into a new kind of sound, grunge. It wasn't just music, it was a scream for help. But the tragedy was that once the world started listening, Kurt felt even more misunderstood. He was a man who hated the spotlight, yet he was standing right in the center of it, and the brighter the lights got, the darker his shadows grew. Imagine being in constant, agonizing physical pain while the world expects you to be the king of rock. For years, Kurt suffered from a mysterious stomach condition that felt like burning glass inside him. To the fans, his angst was a cool aesthetic, but to Kurt, it was a daily struggle just to stand upright. He didn't turn to drugs to live a rock star cliché. He was desperate to numb the fire in his stomach and the noise in his head. His body was a battlefield, and every tour, every interview, and every photo shoot felt like another wound in a fight he never asked to join. He was exhausted from being an icon when he barely felt like a human being. Kurt Cobain had a secret that tormented him every single day. He felt like a fraud. He was a punk rock kid at heart who believed in raw authenticity, yet he found himself as the face of a multi-million-dollar corporate machine. In his final journals, he wrote about the crushing guilt of not enjoying the fame. He felt like he was lying to his fans because he couldn't feel the magic that they felt when he stepped on stage. This wasn't just sadness, it was a moral crisis. He was a man who loved music so much that he hated what the industry had turned him into. He was a prisoner of his own success, trapped in a cycle of performing songs that had lost their meaning to him. In his final months, he was a man looking for an exit, not just from fame, but from the person he had become. He loved his daughter Frances with a fierce intensity, and for a moment it seemed like fatherhood might be the peace he finally needed. But the shadows of his own childhood were too long. He was terrified of failing her the way he felt he had been failed. He tried to disappear into his art and the silence of the woods, but the inner war followed him everywhere. He was a beautiful soul caught in a storm that he had started, but no longer knew how to stop. Kurt Cobain didn't want to be a legend, he just wanted to be still. He gave us the soundtrack to our rebellion, but he never found a way to quiet the rebellion inside himself. He remains a symbol of raw honesty in a world that often feels fake, but the cost of that honesty was his life. When the music finally stopped in April 1994, it wasn't just the end of an era, it was the end of a long, painful struggle for a man who was simply too sensitive for the world he changed. So when you hear the opening notes of his guitar, remember the man who gave us everything until he had nothing left. Was Kurt a victim of his fame, or was he a soul that the world was never meant to keep? Let's talk about his legacy in the comments.